The Soviet Union produced some of the most physically dominant human beings to ever walk the planet. Their soldiers could outperform, outlast, and overpower almost anyone they went up against. And here's the part that should grab your attention. The best UFC fighters, wrestlers, and strength athletes in the world today still train using methods developed behind the Iron Curtain decades ago. These weren't accidental discoveries. They were the result of a calculated, government-funded obsession with building the perfect physical machine. And today, you're getting all of it. But what's shocking is that their approach completely contradicts what most people believe about getting stronger. They didn't believe in destroying themselves in the gym. They believed in something far more intelligent and far more effective. The first thing the Soviets understood that almost nobody talks about is this: strength is a skill, not just a physical quality, an actual skill, which means it can be practiced, refined, and sharpened just like shooting a basketball or swinging a bat. Your brain sends electrical signals to your muscles to contract. The stronger and faster those signals, the more muscle fibers fire at once. More fibers firing means more force produced without adding a single pound of muscle. So instead of going to the gym once a day and absolutely annihilating themselves, Soviet soldiers would practice their movements repeatedly throughout the entire day. A few push-ups when they woke up, a few more an hour later, never going to failure, never even getting close to their limit. Just clean, crisp repetitions that kept hammering the same neurological pathway over and over. After a few weeks of this, their nervous systems became so efficient that they could generate forces most people couldn't touch, with the same muscles they always had. This method has a name today: greasing the groove, and it remains one of the most underrated strength techniques on the planet. The second weapon in their arsenal was the kettlebell, specifically the snatch. You grab it, swing it back between your legs, then explosively drive it overhead in one explosive motion. Soviet soldiers would perform this movement hundreds of times without stopping, not to build bigger muscles, to build something far more useful: a body that generates explosive power and never runs out of gas. What makes this exercise so brutal and so effective at the same time is what it does to your entire system at once. Your heart and lungs are forced to work at high capacity. Your tendons and connective tissue get toughened through repeated loading, and your body learns to operate as one coordinated unit rather than a collection of isolated muscles. No gym required. Any heavy object that lets you perform a similar swinging motion gets the job done. But raw strength and conditioning alone wasn't enough. The Soviets had a third obsession that most people completely ignore: bulletproofing the joints. Because here's the hard truth: strong muscles sitting on top of weak joints don't last. They break down. And a soldier who gets injured is a soldier who can't fight. Their approach was simple but relentless: pull-ups and dips for the upper body, loaded carries, sandbags, heavy packs, anything with weight for the entire system, and serious core work to protect the spine under load. The goal wasn't aesthetics. It was building a body capable of taking punishment day after day without falling apart. While everyone else trained their muscles, the Soviets trained everything. And that's exactly why their soldiers could keep performing at full capacity for weeks on end. Now here's where it gets interesting. They trained 6 to 7 days a week, but before you assume that means grinding themselves into the ground every single day, that's not how it worked. They used a system called wave loading. One day would be maximum effort, heavy, intense, demanding. The next day would be light movement, easy runs, gymnastics, mobility work. Special forces units often trained twice a day, but rarely were both sessions hard. Morning sessions were designed to wake up the nervous system, not tax it. The real work came in the afternoon. The logic is simple, but most people never apply it. On your lighter days, you're not wasting time. You're actively accelerating your recovery. Light movement keeps blood circulating through your muscles, flushing out waste products and delivering nutrients. Sitting completely still on rest days actually slows that process down. So the Soviets stayed in motion, always, just not always at full throttle. Which brings us to recovery itself. Because this is where the Soviets pulled so far ahead of the rest of the world that it almost seems unfair. They had a saying that translates roughly to this: training doesn't make you stronger. Training plus recovery makes you stronger, and they engineered their recovery with the same seriousness they gave their training. Their most famous tool was the banya, the Russian sauna, but used in a very specific way. They alternated between extreme heat and ice-cold water repeatedly. When your body is exposed to intense heat, blood vessels expand dramatically to push circulation throughout the body. When you plunge into cold water, they snap shut. Repeating this cycle over and over acts like a mechanical pump, forcing waste products like lactic acid out of the muscles and driving fresh blood back in. They also use the Vinik, a bundle of birch branches, to strike the skin during the heat phase. It sounds bizarre, but it works, driving blood flow to the surface and the muscle tissue underneath in a way that dramatically speeds up repair. For protein, the weapon of choice was Tvorog, essentially cottage cheese. What makes it special is the type of protein it contains, casein. Unlike whey, which floods your system quickly and leaves just as fast, casein digests slowly, releasing amino acids into your bloodstream for hours. Soviet athletes ate it before bed every night, keeping their muscles fed with a steady supply of protein through the night, preventing the breakdown that happens during sleep. It's one of the most effective recovery nutrition strategies ever discovered, and it costs almost nothing. In hard training blocks, they ate more, a lot more. They didn't stress about gaining a little body fat if their strength was climbing. And the largest meal of the day always came immediately after the most demanding training session, when the muscles are most primed to absorb and use nutrients. Here's what all of this adds up to. The Soviets didn't build dominant athletes through genetics or luck. They built a complete system, one that trained the nervous system as much as the muscles, engineered recovery as seriously as training, and fueled the body with real food timed to real work. Three pillars working together so efficiently that the results seemed almost superhuman to the outside world. You don't need to adopt every piece of this overnight, but pick one element, grease the groove, add Tvorog before bed, try wave loading your training week, and you'll start to feel exactly why this system produced the strongest soldiers, the most decorated Olympic teams, and the fighters that still dominate combat sports today.